What does consent really mean in visual social research? Consent is the process through which a participant agrees to take part in your research and to allow you to use their image in your visual data. But a signed generic form is not the end of consent. In visual social research, consent is a dynamic, informed, and voluntary process. Its purpose is to protect participants and reduce the risk of emotional, reputational, or cultural harm. Consent is especially important because people can be easily identified. Imagine you're filming an interview in a participant's kitchen. That footage captures their habits, their diet, their daily routines, the condition of their home, revealing a great deal of contextual information. Because visual data reveals so much, decisions about analysis, publication, data sharing, and future reuse can't be an afterthought. So how should consent be managed throughout the research lifecycle? In the research design phase, you prepare the consent procedure. Participants should give consent voluntarily, without coercion or undue influence. They should be fully informed through a privacy notice about the research, how their data will be used, whether it will be published or shared, and how it may be reused in the future. The processing of sensitive data requires explicit consent. If your kitchen data touches on sensitive information, such as health conditions, religious consent, anything of that kind, implicit consent isn't enough. They should also be able to modify or withdraw their consent over time. Instead of using a single all-or-nothing checkbox, allow participants to make granular choices. They may agree to some uses but not others, or make different decisions for individual images and different levels of openness and reuse. Some visuals may feel more sensitive than others, and modular consent makes it possible to respect these differences. For example, a participant may agree to take part in the research and allow the researcher to analyze their images while refusing permission for publication. The same participant may still consent to the images being transformed into descriptive text, provided the identifying information is removed. Consent procedures should also consider whether third parties or community norms are involved. In some communities, the use of images is shaped by collective or cultural norms, not only by individual decisions. The procedure may therefore need to be adapted to the specific context. And don't forget alternative representations. If the image of the kitchen can't be shared as visual because of anonymization issues, could it become a textual description instead? That's an anonymization technique which requires the involved person's consent. Not only privacy, consider also copyright aspects. If the visual includes copyrighted material, a text description of it requires the rights holder authorization. In the empirical phase, consider that consent should be collected before data collection begins. This means informing participants through the privacy notice prepared in the research design phase, having them sign a consent form and keeping a copy of the signed document. But signing the form does not complete the process. Consent may need to be revisited before publication, before visual data is uploaded to a repository, if a participant decides to withdraw, or if the planned anonymization method no longer guarantees effective protection. For example, at the time of filming, your project didn't know exactly where this kitchen image would eventually be published. Once those channels become clear, participants may decide to limit or refuse to consent for that specific use. That's their right. Your job is to keep them informed about decisions made throughout the research lifecycle that affect the use of their personal data and respect any limitations they choose to impose. When visual data is shared, the conditions of consent should travel with it. That means communicating them clearly to future researchers through licenses and guidelines for future data use, so that everyone respects what participants agreed to. To learn more about consent, visit Codivist.org.